Welcome to Pastor's Chat today. Well, today we're going to finish up Revelations chapter 6, where we see the first 6 seals opened on that 7-sealed book by the Lamb of God, Jesus Christ, in the scene that John saw in heaven. And then we get ready to go into chapter 7, which I believe helps us understand exactly what takes place in between the 6th and the 7th seal. And so I believe also what will help us understand that is the parallel between this passage, Revelation 6, and the prophetic message of Jesus himself on the Mount of Olives just before his crucifixion, as he meets with his disciples there, and they see the temple, the beautiful temple that Herod had built, and they were talking about how wonderful it was. And Jesus answered them and said, "Do you see these things? I tell you, not one stone will be left here upon another that shall not be thrown down." Matthew 24:2. Then what we begin to see is what Jesus says in answer to a question they have. And so as they sat there, they said, "Well, then tell us, when will these things be? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?" And Jesus answered, "Take heed that no one deceives you, for many will come in my name, saying, 'I am the Christ,' and will deceive many." Now here in Revelation 6, the first seal was open. It was a white horse. It was Antichrist coming, promising peace, deceiving the whole world. And that's the first parallel. The second one we see in verse 6, "And you'll hear of wars and rumors of wars." And we know that Antichrist makes his peace treaty. The second seal was the red horse, and he has war that breaks out on the earth when he breaks his peace treaty with Israel. And then he says, "See that you are not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet." Verse 7, "For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom will be against kingdom, and there will be famines." And so then we see famines in verse 7 here. That's the black horse. That's the next seal, and that is what takes place after war usually. And then we see Jesus says, "And pestilences, earthquakes in various places." In other words, death will follow the famine with the earthquakes and the pestilence that takes place. That's the pale horse. That's the fourth seal, and that is death and hell. It says there in Revelation 7 and 8. And then we see the martyrs. Look what he says in verse 8. "All these are the beginning of the sorrows. Then they will deliver you up to tribulation and kill you, and you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake." And so there in Revelations 6, 9 through 11, you have the martyrs, the souls of the saints under the altar. And Jesus says that's what will take place next. These saints will be killed. And I believe we see that in the tribulation. And then verses 10 through 13 here in Matthew 24, you begin to see, "And then many will be offended, many will betray one another, hate one another. Many false prophets will rise up and deceive many. And because lawlessness will abound, the love of many will grow cold. But he who endures to the end will be saved." Worldwide chaos takes place here as Jesus says what will happen next. And then Revelation 6, verses 12 through 17, then that's when the rich man, the mighty man, the poor, the slave, everyone is going into the rocks and the dens and the caves and crying out for them to fall on them, for great is the wrath of the Lamb. And they say, "Hide us from his wrath." And so amazing parallel that you see take place. And of course then Jesus says, and then verse 14 in Matthew 24, "This gospel of the kingdom will be preached in all the world as a witness to all the nations, and then the end will come." And I believe that's what Revelation 7 is about, the law between the 6th seal and the 7th seal. You have this picture of the 144,000 Jews who are sealed, and they begin to preach the gospel. As they get saved, I believe, as a result of course, the two witnesses, Elijah and Moses, preaching for the first 3.5 years of the tribulation. Now, that's a lot to put on you today, but I think it's interesting. Jesus himself prophesied of these days in Matthew 24, his last prophetic message. Well, God bless you, and you have a wonderful, wonderful day.